Hey folks, this is Joe Wetzel with another Worldographer tutorial video. In this case, we're going to go do a deep dive into city generation and what Worldographer provides for you out of the box. What you see in front of you is a generated city that Worldographer did. And if you wanted to do that again, you'd come up here to File, and you go to New City, Town, Village Map, and that pulls up this dialog. And here you can set the size of your map. Now it's important to understand that the population, if you try to put a large population into a small area, it's going to take a long time to run because it's trying to place every single one of those buildings for those residents. So you're just going to run a long time because it's just not going to find any very many places to put them. So also, if you have a large coastline and a river into a medium-size map, if you will, then you're also going to run into a slow performance there. What I have checked here is for a blank map, so that will give you a map with just this background, whatever background you choose. If you want a terrain fill, or if you want a texture like what this is, or if you want to use a color, it'll do that, but it doesn't do any of these other steps. I'm going to walk you through all these other steps, though, or all these other options, just so you have that. Although the focus of this video is actually going to be on the generate step-by-step generation process. So to walk through the other options here, dense buildings, if you check this box, then the center section of the city, kind of where two main roads meet, and that's where, if you think historically, a lot of cities develop where you have two roads that meet, or you'll have a road that meets, and then you'll have a road, and you'll have some reason to put a couple of buildings there that people cluster there at first, and then another road shoots off from that. So effectively, from a map making standpoint, you've got a city center based on where two roads meet. If you don't, in Worldographer, set up two main roads, and I'm going to be getting to this in the step-by-step process, then it won't generate streets and it won't place buildings because it needs to have that city center to know where to center things. This is your population dial here. In the free version, you can go as high as 5,000. If you want to go with, if you want to have Worldographer generate larger cities, larger populations, you have to go with the Pro version. Has a coast. These are clock positions, and this is just saying, hey, give me a coastline from approximately 12 o'clock, so north, if you will, or the top of the map, top center, to 3 o'clock, meaning center right. River, same thing. So do you want to have a river going through it, like what we've got here? Then it's got, from this case, this is saying from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, but that's not what was chosen for this map. Main roads. So as I said, you've got two main roads, and this is what clock positions do they start in. So you've got one from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock and 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Again, not necessarily what we used for the map that you see behind this window. Windiness controls like how much of a bend the roads will have. So this is a small bend, and you can increase that if you want things to be more windy. Road to perpendicular, this will make sure that your second road, it'll ignore these settings, and it'll make sure your second road is truly perpendicular to the first road. Then what texture do you want or color do you want for your road? And here, does it have a wall? So you can have a circular wall around your city. And how many towers do you want it to have? And it's just going to do straight lines from tower to tower. So it's not a circle. In this case, it's 8 towers. So I think that's going to make an octagon, I believe. Could be wrong. It's early morning for me. Radius is how many hexes away do you want those towers to be in that wall to be. Street layout. So we've got a couple of street layouts. You can do just random. I don't recommend ordered or very ordered unless you are going to have your main roads be perpendicular, like be truly perpendicular, and be going from 12 to 6 o'clock and from 3 to 9 o'clock. Because the perspective, if you have a ordered will end up with a very a grid-like structure to your city, which a lot of cities that are more modern do have that. But if you don't have them running truly north, south, east, west, it really plays with the viewer's eyes, perspective-wise, and it just doesn't look good if it's not truly north, south, and east, west. So I usually don't use those. I usually typically use haphazard, although I also use branching. Those two are what I prefer. Number of streets that it's going to make, and the skip chance percentage. So number of streets, again, getting to the population size. If you don't have a lot of streets, then it doesn't have a lot of places to put buildings, and so it can run long to get everything placed because it can't find locations to put those buildings down. Skip chance percentage is really only used for the ordered and very ordered layouts, and that will give you some double blocks essentially. Vegetation, so how much deciduous trees and evergreen trees and tropical trees should it add? As I said, this was a run from before, and the nice thing about it is everything is fully editable, so I can go in here to features and I can filter for just settlement or structure rather, and this will give us just our buildings, and this is giving futuristic ones as well because we give a handful of those. We have map packs that will sell you many more options. We'll get instead of these 25 or so future icons, you'll have 200, I believe, or same thing with Western or things like that. But I can pick I can pick one on the map. I can select it, and then I can do things like rotate it, and yeah, I can rotate it. Yeah, there we go. I can see the label. These little labels are basically map positions. So like this one here is OJ1. Well, if you think of the map horizontally and vertically divided up into 26 sections, O is the whatever, the 15th letter of the alphabet or thereabouts. So this is 15 sections over, and what's J, like 10 or 11. So 10 or 11 sections down, and it's the first building placed in that section. That's what that is. You can turn those all off if you don't like them by just checking the box down here, feature labels. They all go away. Likewise, the little dots are notes, and so I can go to add these little yellow squares, I should say, the add, edit, view, note, and then I can select one of them, and it will pop up and it will tell me, that this is a furrier, and here's who's working there. If I don't want to see those, because it does get kind of distracting. In prior versions of the program, this was a solid yellow square. It got really distracting, and I've always turned it off. So we made it semi-transparent. It's a little bit better. But you can turn it off by this and just understand, you've got a note in the center of the building, or turn it back on when you want to pull up that functionality. The other nice thing about notes, though, is that I can easily find buildings of a particular type. So tavern, like if I want to just see where are all the taverns in town now. Because of some other testing that I was doing previously, we have a boatload of taverns in this particular city. Or, if you're from certain cultures, maybe that would be appropriate to have this many. But you can see all the taverns, and then since we've got this add view edit note on, we can pull up the dialog by clicking on one, and Worldographer generates all the details about many of these building types that are special businesses and so forth. And so you've got a list of drinks and food and patrons and staff and so forth. You can also pull up that dialog by selecting a building. If we went over to here and we select this other one, and we go to notes of selected, now we've got the same sort of thing for this building. All that stuff is configurable. All those values are configurable by going up here to the configure menu and choosing configure settlement data. Now this is a pro feature again, so this is something that if you want to get into the weeds and into the details, you can do that with the pro version. So you can control the placement of the buildings. You've got Medieval Academy, for example, and you've got one of these for every 15,000 people. So if your city has 15,000 people, you'll get one of them, probably, unless the algorithm runs into problems trying to place it. Occasionally, it does that in order of, what are the fewest buildings. So something like this Medieval Academy would be placed early in the process because there's only going to be one of them, or a handful in a very large city even. So it'll try to place that early, so it's quite likely to be able to place it. It's just that occasionally it might not if there are several other large buildings. And again, if your map is relatively small, if there's few streets, those are other reasons why it will start bailing on trying to place buildings and move on to the next and try again, and kind of speed up the process. Should it be placed on a road or not? Is it a farm or not? Not really used, I don't think, but we do check the box for some of these like a farm, but I don't believe that we're using that actively. Placement, do you want it to be anywhere, or should it be only near the city center or only away from the city center? Something like the Armor, noisy, keep them away from the city center, for example. What's that distance? If it should be near or far, what's that split cutoff different distance? How many hexes? Dense, is it not really used anymore? That we've got the checkbox on the dense buildings thing, and then remove if you want to no longer use this if you want to take this out of the building placement algorithm. You can also load and save these configurations so that if you tweak everything a certain way, then you can save it here, or load the packs that we have. We include on our website. You can download the files for those. They're included in the purchase, in the zips you get when you purchase, or if you got it a long time ago with our prior program, we've got them up on the Worldographer website as well. Building details. So now this gets into what's in a particular building. So here's our alchemist, and here's a list of things that they might have for sale. Minimum and maximum prices that they have, what's the unit for the pricing, what's the chance they have it, and what's the most that they might have available. Person table, so that you've got items and you've got people, and so this is okay, you might have you're going to have one alchemist, and then you're going to have a number of apprentices between 1 and 4, and some other options for that. Races for your city, what's the percentage of those? What languages do they speak? What's the chance that you have each? Other info, the occupations of people, and if you're going to get some of these buildings can have names to them. So, so building naming. So the inns and the shops in this case are set up to have names. And so if we close this, go to inn. I don't know how many inns we have. Okay, so there's our inn right there. If I add edit view note and pull that up. So here's our inn, and this is called the Emerald Mug. So you got that too. So there's a whole lot there. We've been working on this and steadily improving it just for Worldographer for 5 or 6 years, and prior to that we were doing Hexographer for another 5 or 8 years before that. So you got that. But anyway, so on to the other aspect or the other way to generate the cities, the step-by-step process. So now we're going to create another one, blank map, and we're going to go and show that in the step-by-step process. So you're going to have that blank map pop up, and then generate the coast and what clock positions do you want this to go from and to. And so I'm going to make it a coastline that's going to be most of the western side of this. And so there we go. The mini map only updates, every minute or two, so that's why you're not seeing that coastline appear up there yet. So you got that. Now I can go to generate river if I wanted to. I'm going to skip that just for time. Generate main roads, so this is where they should be. I want to make sure that mine are, these are okay. I don't want to have the main road go from 12 to 5 and the other one go from like 1 to 6, and you have these, scissors that are very wide open, for example, because then you get an intersection in the center that's not that great. And I talked about all these other things before. So we're just going to hit OK. And so there we go. So if you don't want to have a city center, what you can do, 2 roads to be your city center, is you can kind of mock that out. And you can go to shapes here. And as I was saying, everything is editable in Worldographer. So you can go to line, or I'm sorry, select, and that's going to give you these little dots, and we can select this line. There we go. When they turn to blue, then you're selected, the dots. And what I can do, important to note here, these are tagged right here with main road. And that's what the algorithm is looking for. It's looking for 2 main roads, and then where do they intersect. And so you're only going to want to have 2 main roads, because if you make multiple, maybe some of them don't intersect, and then you're in trouble. But we can delete this one, and then we can make another one. So now I'm going to go to line, and all my settings, the nice thing is when I selected that one, all my settings were changed to match. So now I can make just one like this. And yeah, well, we're going to see how this goes. So I deselect that one. Now, if you want other roads that you make should be tagged with just road, and then that will help. You can turn on and off objects based on their tags here on the bottom if you find that useful. So now we can go to generate streets, and I honestly don't know how well it's going to do generating the streets right now. I'm going to cut this down because this map is a smaller size than usually what I use. Usually I'll have a map that's close to 100 by 80 or something hexes, and so I'm going to cut. But because we picked a smaller map and we have the coastline cutting away part of the thing. Oh, actually no, cancel that because I want to generate a wall first. So I'm going to generate the wall, and we're going to see what that comes out with. So you do want to generate the wall before you generate the streets, because you want the wall to honor the roads that are the main roads that are cutting through, but you don't want to worry about you don't want you want the wall down first before you put all the streets, because you want the streets contained, not to cross anyway the walls. You want some of them, many of them inside, and then some others outside, but you don't want to cross the walls, of course. So you put down the wall before that. So now we can go to generate streets, and as I was saying, we're going to make this 100, and the skip chance doesn't matter very much. I do like haphazard, as I said, and we're going to go with cobblestone, and it's putting our streets down for us, and there we go. It did 90 out of the 100. And you can see, like, if we had another main road running, the length of the map, basically, then we'd have a bunch more, down here, and maybe they'd be branching out a little bit over here, have some more up here, and have them branching out over there. So with that out of the way, and then the nice thing about doing this, I really want to make this point, the nice thing about doing this step by step is I can make changes before all those buildings get put down. So I can go to select, and I can be like, this little road segment here doesn't make any sense. Let me select it and delete it. This one here doesn't make any sense. Let me select it and delete it. This one here doesn't make any sense. Click it and delete it. I can do that the handful of times. The algorithm's great that it does all this work for you, but it doesn't, it's not perfect. And so it's nice to have a chance to tweak these, and I can also drag them around too. Now this point here I'm not going to drag because there's no good place to drag that one to, but if I find another one, nope, nothing else down there that I want to tweak. Anything up here I want to tweak? No, but just to show the dragging and just to give us, so you can give yourself a whole lot of extra space. So now I've just made room to place another 3 or 4 potential buildings there, and so you can drag those and make them bigger. I can do that with this other one as well, and that's nice that if I run into problems placing buildings, I can expand some of these streets and then place them again. So we're going to go to generate buildings now. So this is, this is the magic spot. I'll do the dense so you can see what that looks like. 5,000. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to set this just to 2,000, just so that it's not running very long, especially since, as I said, this is a smaller map than usually what I use, as well as that we've got a section cut away for the coastline here. We also have, a section, a fewer number of streets because of, like I said, with the it's also counting here the number of residents. So each building is placing a number of people in the buildings. And so this is a change from prior versions. I should point out that this is version 1.49. There was a bug in 1.48 related to one of the steps with city generation. So you're going to want to get 1.49 to see that working. But here you go. I'm going to turn off the feature labels again, because I find that distracting. But here, so your dense streets, your dense are these buildings here that are more tightly placed in there, as opposed to over here. You can see they're a little bit more spread out. Same thing over here, a little bit more spread out. But as we got closer to this area, we get the denser buildings put in there. So I think, oh, and then vegetation, sorry. So generate vegetation, and so we can control what kind of trees do we want, and it's going to find open spots and try to stick trees in all those places. And you can run that multiple times. That's the other nice thing about this one. Even if you generated everything in one step, then you can run that, run some of these steps later. Like you can run the building placement a second time after you've generated all of the generated the whole building or the whole city in one step. You can do it again, and here, with vegetation, we can do this multiple times. If we don't, if we wanted more after all, it'll try to find some more places to stick everything. And of course, the more, once we do that a few times, it'll run longer because it's going to have a bunch of, it's looking for intersects. It's trying to make sure that, hey, we're not intersecting, we're not overlapping anything that we shouldn't be. So anyway, that's a pretty good deep dive, I hope, into the step-by-step process for generating cities, as well as a look at the dialogue for generating everything in one step. Again, so this is Worldographer, and I should point out that we've got a number of additional map icons available on our website, as well as on DriveThruRPG. If you search Inkwell Ideas, there's a map icon set where we put all of our previous Patreon icons, because we do new icons every month. This month right now we're doing a Viking set, so if you look at patreon.com/InkwellIdeas, you'll be able to get that. You can also get the prior couple of months included as a kind of a sign-up bonus. Also, it's a way for people that don't remember to check the Patreon often enough to grab the prior month or two's icon sets. But then once we've got them out, we've got them. Once we put them out on Patreon, then we also have them up on DriveThruRPG, and there, we've been doing this for over 4 years now. So we've got everything. We've got gnomes and elves and space fantasy and all the traditional many cultures. And like I said, this month is Vikings. We've got Mesoamerican. We did a medieval Japan. There's a lot out there. So any culture, if we don't have it out there, if you send us a suggestion through email, or if you join the Patreon, every month we're putting up a new poll for the new theme, and you can send us suggestions. So thanks a bunch, and happy mapping.